Okay, this is Anthony Ash, and I am interviewing Aunt Natalie. Today is March 19th, 2022. Aunt Natalie, can we start with your full name and date of birth?
First of all, I'm not your aunt, I'm your cousin. But that's okay, I'll be aunt.
Okay.
Oh, my name is Natalie Gibbs. Date of birth 12/24/1927 in Crawford, Mississippi.
Okay, great, great. And so we were actually just talking about this a little bit off camera, but you were talking about the midwives. So can you start talking about that again? How the midwife would come to the home and help?
Well, when my mother or any lady went into labor, but my father, I remember when my baby brother was born in 1940.
Mm-hmm.
My dad would get in the wagon and go and get the midwife where she lived, I don't know, and he'd bring her there, and then she would deliver the baby. I was sent away. I was sent up to my grandmother's house when he was born, because I was born in 40, 27, 37, I was 12. Yeah. And so they would prepare to have some hot water. They'd build a fire and put the pot on with hot water,
Mm-hmm.
to help clean up
Mm-hmm.
once the baby was born.
Okay.
And the lady that came when Nelson was born, her name was they called her Aunt Beck.
Okay.
Auntbeck, Aunt Beck.
Okay.
I don't know what her name was. Was she named Rebecca or what? But that was Aunt Beck was the midwife for him. I guess for all the kids except me. I was born down by Aunt Mag's.
Okay.
Aunt Mag's house.
And that was down in Knoxville.
In Crawford, Mississippi,
Oh,
I
in
guess. I
Crawford.
don't know. At Aunt Mag's house, where Aunt Mag's house was, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't ask my mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said so the midwife would collect the information about the birth
Mm-hmm.
and give it to a white doctor in Crawford.
In Crawford.
And he supposedly was.
Submitted to, I guess, to Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the records were kept.
Okay.
But it's,
Mm-hmm.
and for the most part, the midwives, they couldn't read or write,
Mm-hmm.
and they just told them by, I guess, by memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why you were talking about how they had your name misspelled, and that's why, because the midwife couldn't read or write and just did the best she could, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. My dad had a first cousin. Her name was Natalie Ash. I guess she was one of Paul's brother's daughter, lived in Columbus. Her name was Nattie, Nattie,
Okay.
Ash, Nattie Ash. So they named me for her,
Oh, okay.
but I didn't want to be a Nattie,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a Mattie
Mm-hmm.
and another Mattie, and Charlotte's daughter was named Mattie. So I didn't want to be Nattie.
Mm-hmm.
I spelled it the way I wanted to be, like Nat King Cole's daughter,
Okay.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, can you give us the name of your parents?
William Ash Jr.
Mm-hmm.
and Bessie Ireland.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about them? Whatever you feel
My
like
dad-
we should know.
my-
Your dad and your mom.
Well, they were dad and mom. Dad was very, very quiet. He didn't talk. He didn't smile. I don't think I ever saw him smile over 3 times in my lifetime. Only time he came to life is talk about sports, baseball, and politics.
Oh, really?
At that time, they couldn't vote. My
Mhm.
parents couldn't vote. Yeah.
And so the politics, he would talk about like the mayor or like the president.
Like the president.
Oh, okay.
That was the big deal.
Yeah.
They would discuss.
Okay.
And then my mother, she was a talker.
So she made up for his quietness.
Right, yeah. I asked Mom, I said, how did you ever stay with him? I never saw him touch her. I never saw him show any affection.
Mm-hmm.
He just bossy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they stayed together 65 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were farmers, right?
Farmers, yeah.
So tell us about their farming business, right? It was a business.
Yeah, it
They were
was a
self-employed,
business.
so.
Yeah. Well, my father did the planting of all the crops. We had cotton, we had corn, we had potatoes, we had peanuts, and all kind of vegetables in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Mama had 2 gardens. Daddy would till them up, and Mama would plant the crop. The potatoes, everything but the cotton.
Mm-hmm.
The cotton and corn. Oh boy! I remember when I had to drop it. Daddy would these long rows, and they make a path in the center of the row,
Mm-hmm.
and you take a bucket and you go and drop it.
Mm-hmm.
Go in the bucket and drop,
Mm-hmm.
drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way the corn was planted. The potatoes, they were set out. They would cultivate, take a potato, and when it sprout and create a vine, we would plant the potato,
Okay.
and then we'd make potatoes. And all the other stuff, I guess Daddy bought from seed. He bought seed, and Mama planted the seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you're growing up, did you all have to buy, seems like you wouldn't have had to buy any food because you grew everything in the garden and...
Only thing Dad bought was flour and sugar.
Oh, okay.
Everything else was grown.
Okay.
Like the corn. When the corn get ripe or get hard,
Mm-hmm.
we would shell that, and Dad would put it in a sack and take it to they call it grist mill. They
Mm-hmm.
would grind it
Mm-hmm.
and make meal.
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, everything else we raised.
Yeah.
Hogs, chickens, cows,
Right.
yeah, all of that.
And then can you tell us about your dad, William Jr.'s parents or your grandparents and what you remember about them?
Well, Grandpa William Sr.,
Mm-hmm.
he was a hard-working man. Yeah, he had all those children. He had 10 kids. He had to work hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember him subscribing to a paper, a magazine, a pamphlet, like it was called the Pathfinder,
Okay.
with all the political news. He could read. Pa could read and write,
Okay.
and he would get this paper once a month and get all the news about the farming and politics or whatever was going on in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was mailed to him.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ma Hattie, she stayed in the house. She didn't go to the farm that much.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember he called Mom Babe, B-A-B-E, Babe.
Okay.
And when she would make breakfast, and when Pa wanted, she'd make coffee, she'd serve him a cup of coffee. He'd drink that, and when he wanted some more, he'd take the fork or knife and hit on the glass. Ding, 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 ding. More coffee, babe. So Mom would bring the coffee. She'd make breakfast, and she'd bring him a second serving of coffee. But she was a hard-working lady.
Okay.
I'm sure you have a picture of her. Your dad have a picture of her.
Yeah, I believe we got it from your brother. It was Ma and Bert.
Bert, yeah.
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 Is that the picture that you have or know about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Ma and Bert.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how she did it, but she did it.
Yeah. And so can you tell us about the home you grew up in terms of like what it looked like physically outside and inside? How many rooms?
There's a picture over here. Look on the table there. If you can get an idea That's our house.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the picture.
Yeah, little shack, 2-room shack,
Okay.
a kitchen, and a large living room and bedroom. It had 2 full-size beds in it, that one room, and a fireplace.
Okay.
So
So it was really, was it, so it was 2 rooms in the house, basically?
2 rooms in the house. When I left home in 1945,
Okay.
2 rooms. Yeah.
And how many siblings did you have, and everybody lived in those 2 rooms?
In those 2 rooms. I don't want to tell that part.
Okay.
We all slept in the bed together until brother got so tall. Whoever was sleeping at the foot, Italy would say, "Mama, he putting his feet in my face." So Mama went and bought a little twin-size fold bed to put brother in.
Oh, okay.
But when I left there, we were all in the bed together.
Okay.
It was.
And so, so the bathroom was outside, right? There was no attached bathroom.
No. The bathroom was outside. Yeah.
Okay.
I say outside.
Okay.
There was no bathroom.
Yeah. And
We took a bath in the tub in the kitchen.
and how was the cooking? How was the cooking done? It was you all had gas stoves, right?
Oh, are you serious?
Oh, okay.
No, we had an iron stove. You build a fire it was flat on the top and had a door. And you build a hot fire in there and you make your bread or whatever and put it in there and it will cook. And other fried food was cooked on top of the stove.
Okay.
It was an iron stove,
Okay.
of iron.
And that was the same thing you used for heat in the wintertime, that same stove? So when you all were kids, what did you do for fun, like for games or?
Played marbles and chased the chickens and pushed ties down the road. Made balls, rag balls.
Rag balls? Like from old clothes or something?
Yeah, and then wrap strings around them and round and round and round until it gets solid and play ball with the rag balls.
Okay. And so the chickens, you said chase the chickens, so the chickens were just free roaming?
Free roaming.
Okay.
Yeah, they went out there in the yard. Yeah.
And do you recall ever like going anywhere, like when you were a kid, like off the farm, like to a different city or?
Went to church and back home, that was it.
Okay.
Went to visit relatives once in a while.
Okay.
Went to later on Daddy got a car and we'd go visit Aunt Charlotte, which lived in Crawford.
Okay.
Or visit my mother's sister, Aunt Jane. But we didn't go to town. When I got to go to Columbus, I was about 16 years old.
Okay.
And I went with Ike's mother, Miss Sally.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't go to
To
town.
go shopping or just to
go
sightsee?
shopping with what? Just go to see the sight.
Okay.
Oh no, we had a pretty rough life.
Yeah.
Mine, compared to what kids that we had. But we were happy because we didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like being one of the older siblings, did you have to care for your brothers and sisters, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That was part of my duty. When I got older, I stayed home. When Mama went to field, and took care of it. Took care of, like Mary Will. Yeah, I had a lot of responsibility. I had to make fire, I had to cook, help Mama cook, yeah.
Okay.
Being the oldest girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was her helper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for schooling, I think we talked about this a little off camera, but can you talk about your schooling and your sibling schooling?
Well, our schooling originally, we had to walk about 5 miles
to get to school.
to get to school.
Wow.
Oh boy, cold, rain, whatever, we had to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the school, they had, there was a church, a Baptist church, that St. James Church, Uncle Jim's Church.
Okay.
We had classes in there
Okay.
until they built a little schoolhouse. It was about the size of my living room,
Okay.
and they had benches around the wall, boards, built up boards
Mm-hmm.
on little, and we sat all around the wall, and all classes were in the same room.
Okay. With one teacher or
2 teachers.
2 teachers?
Mm-hmm.
And what age did you start going to school?
I was about 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you went up to how old were you?
I finished 8th grade. We had a system that you wouldn't believe. We had James Weeks and his wife Magnolia. They would assign you a reading to do, numbers, do your timetable. You started off school with timetable.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I didn't get out of elementary school until I was 17
Wow.
because we only went to school like 5 months.
Okay.
You had to go
Back to work.
back to work in the field.
Right.
So I remember one year, the 5th grade, brother 2 years, almost 2 years older than I, he had assigned us, James Weeks, he assigned us a paragraph to read, and we had to remember when the war was 1876, when did the war end, when it began, and we couldn't recite that, so he kept us in 5th grade 2 years.
Okay.
And I don't know what other grade I repeated, but I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this was pretty, I would
Pretty
say,
common.
informal education system. It was.
Yeah, yeah. The people, I'll say the white people, they didn't care. They didn't want you to get an education anyway.
Right.
So we got all the books that the white kids had used up, ragged and dirty. Those were our books.
Mm-hmm. And so as far as you know, was James Weeks, was he an educated person? Did he go to college? Or?
I don't know whether he went to college or not, but all the Weekses, for the most of them, they were a lot of were big family, and they were school teachers. So I'm assuming they must have gone at least to 12th grade.
Okay.
Because he was excellent at math.
Okay.
Yeah, James Weeks was.
Okay.
So what kind of formal education he had, I don't know, because we didn't ask those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this school this was for all of Crawford? This school?
No, just for the farmers out in our community.
Okay.
Down in Crawford, they had a nice 3 or 4 room school that all the kids went to around Crawford.
Yeah.
All the black kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so did your cousins go to school with you with James Weeks?
Yeah, Sadie Mae, Uncle Buddy's kids, Uncle Jim's kids, Sarah Lee and Sonny and all of them, we went to school together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we walked down the road there where Uncle Jim's church is.
Okay. And that was St. James Church, right?
St. James Church.
Okay.
Later years, they built us, like I said, a school, and we went to that school, and the cracks in the floor was that wide. we would freeze. The boys would have to go to the woods and get wood and bring. They had a big old iron stove in there.
Mm-hmm.
They would go to the woods and bring wood, and that's how we got our heat in the wintertime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all in that. All grades was in that one room.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't see how they did it, but they did class by class. Say, well, James Weeks would maybe do 2nd grade, and then we be quiet, and then his wife may do 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm.
So they switched it about so everybody wasn't talking at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a system.
Okay. Good.
Mm.
I mean, so you were talking about schooling, and then you were talking about the boys didn't really like to go to school. So can you talk about that?
Well, the boys, they didn't like to go to school. But if they didn't go to school in the spring, they had to start plowing and, doing
Work.
manual labor. And in the fall, they had to what they call do hay.
Mm-hmm.
They'd cut hay to store up and bale it. Uncle Jim my grandfather had a press too. They'd bale it and store it for the cows during the winter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anything they could do to get out of school, it was fine. Yeah.
And so, can you tell us about your experience with working the farm? Because you said you had to do some work also. It was like all hands,
all
available.
hands that was old enough had to go to field,
Mm-hmm.
or you had to plant the crop. By me and being the oldest brother and I, a lot of times we had to drop the corn, and Dad would come on and cover it up.
Okay.
Yeah, carry the bucket and go in, do.
Mm-hmm.
But later years, my dad got rich and bought a cultivator, what they call a cultivator.
Okay.
They put the seed up here in a big old tank, and
Mhm.
and a auger would go around and dispense the seed.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I did everything on the farm but plow.
Okay. And the
My
plow, was he plowing with a mule or?
With a mule.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when he got rich, as you said, did he also get a tractor or something?
Many years later, he got a tractor.
Okay.
But when he bought this cultivator, they call it cultivator, he would hitch the mule to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even the cultivator had a mule.
Yeah, it had to be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So did he have one mule or did he have multiple?
He had 4 or 5 mules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I guess when one get tired, you go to the next
Yeah.
one, or he was running them all at the same time.
No, running them different times. Sometimes Uncle Buddy had. Well, Uncle Buddy would borrow the mules.
Okay.
They would be planting crop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did once the crop came to maturity.
Which was in the summer.
In the summer, in the spring, start late spring or summer.
Okay.
But previous to that, before that, I had to help plant. I chopped cotton,
Okay.
thin it out so it won't be too thick. Chopped corn.
Okay. And so, I know what chop is like to cut it off, but
No, chop. You would have a long hoe,
Mhm.
a blade on a long, and you just go and thin it out because it'd be too thick. If it's too thick, it won't be productive.
oh,
They
okay.
had to thin it out, maybe 4 or 5 plants per hill. In a hill, they call it.
Okay.
Yeah, and you would hoe and thin it out.
Okay.
Mm.
And
I got a hoe if you want to see it.
I actually would, but
Would
not.
you really?
I
Okay.
would. Yeah, before I leave.
I'll show it to you. When we thin the crop out with.
Okay.
And then when it came to fruition, we gather corn and cook it,
Mm-hmm.
boil it or bake it in the stove.
Mm-hmm.
Mama had all kind of crops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what about the animals besides the mules? What animals did you all have?
Had hogs. Daddy raised hogs. That's where we got our meat from.
Okay.
And they'd kill the hogs in the fall.
Mm-hmm. And the hogs were eating corn.
Yeah, and feed them corn. Put them up in a pen
Mm-hmm.
and feed them as much as they could eat. And they got so fat they couldn't holler. They didn't know they were. They would well, they called it butcher them. They would butcher them and cut them up and put the meat down in salt.
Mm-hmm.
A big old box and put the meat in there and put salt on it, and the salt would cure the meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Keep it from spoiling.
Okay. And then so when it was time to eat that meat, did you have to soak it in water to get some of the salt out? Or?
No. Before it got too salty, they would take it out
Oh, okay.
and hang it up.
Oh, okay.
And then it kind of purified itself with, the grease coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'd hang it in the house, and Mama slice it and cook it for breakfast, have ham for breakfast.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said your dad sold cows from time to time. Did he keep cows for himself? Or
Yeah, he had to keep cows. Most of the time, the cows, he sold milk. He had enough cows to sell milk.
Oh, okay.
They had big old cans like this time, 5 or 10 gallon cans, metal cans,
Mm-hmm.
and the milk would milk the cows. Put the milk in the can and take it up there to your granddad's house, Uncle Jim's house.
Okay.
A truck would come around and pick it up and take it to a processing plant in West Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'd collect it for a month,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the month, they'd send you a check for the amount of milk. All that they didn't want, they didn't steal.
Okay.
So many, they pay you for so many gallons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much a gallon, but my grandmother and my dad had cows just for milk.
Okay. And were they free roaming also, or did they?
Yeah, they roamed around on the place. They had a pastor. They couldn't go off the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, can you tell us about picking the cotton, and then like we were talking about off camera, where you pick the cotton, and tell us about the prickly part and everything.
You know, they would be very tight little balls, and then when the cotton it matures, the ball, they would open up like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to put your hand on it and get the cotton
Mm-hmm.
and put it in a sack. You would drag it over your shoulder
Mm-hmm.
until it got too heavy, and then Dad made baskets.
Oh, he made baskets.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
smart.
From what did
From small, we'd go to the woods and get small saplings, they call them saplings, little trees,
Mm-hmm.
and he would slice them thin and peel them
Okay.
and dry them out and lay them down and he'd cross them like this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'd go round and round and round, and when they get wide as he wanted them to be, he'd bring them up like this and start going around and around, and they'd be about this high,
Wow.
about
Okay.
this big.
Yeah, that's a
But
big
they
basket.
cut, yeah.
Yeah.
First time I saw him do that, I said, wow, he's so smart. It was fascinating.
And so the cotton went from your sack into that basket,
Mm-hmm.
and then from that basket
Into a wagon
into a wagon.
with high, well, it would be, wagon would be, it would be, I guess, maybe 4 feet wide
Mhm.
and 5 or 6 feet, about 5 feet tall, and they put it in and tramp it down and then take it to Crawford
And that wagon was pulled by a mule.
by mule.
Okay.
Yeah, they hitch the mules to it and take it to Crawford to
Okay.
sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And because they had the gin in Crawford.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And was it similar to the milk where they kept track of how much or did he get paid right then?
I don't know whether he got paid right then or whether he got, I guess he got paid at the end of the season. I
Okay.
guess you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. They would pay him for,
And I know we off camera, you said the only place you all went was church. So can you tell us about church, and did you enjoy going to church, or was it
Yes.
like, oh, I
wasn't no
guess,
place else to go. That was special. You get to go to church on Sunday.
and you all dressed up for church? and-
Dressed up for church.
Mhm.
Went to, my dad's church was on the fourth Sunday, because back then church was only held one Sunday a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Fourth Sunday we went to Dad's church, and the second Sunday we went to Mama's church
Okay,
at Oakland.
okay,
Dad was Methodist and Mama was Baptist.
okay.
So that was special to go and see all the cousins and we
Mhm.
hadn't seen in a month.
And what about your grandparents? Where did they go?
We went to Crawford to the Methodist church.
Okay.
Pa didn't go to church. Mom went to church.
Okay.
Pa didn't confess to belief in Christ until he was 70.
Okay.
About 70, I think.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And then, do you know what was their relations like with? Or I guess the first question is, were white people? I imagine they were living in Crawford or had neighboring farms or something.
Yeah, mostly at that time was most people lived in more people lived in white people live in Crawford than black people. Because the black people basically out on the farm.
Okay.
Well, the city in the town was called. They
Mhm.
had stores, and that's where people go shop for whatever they need:
Mhm.
meat, eggs,
Okay.
you know.
And so those white people, they didn't go to field necessarily.
No, they had people living on the farm on that farm to do the farming for them.
Okay.
That them Harrison, they had a lot of people on their farms. They
Mhm.
didn't go to farm; they go there and supervise,
Okay. Yeah.
like they did in slavery.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I had heard that at least Uncle Jim, which was my great grandfather, was, I guess, respected is the word, or at least tolerated in terms of his relations with the white people
Yeah,
in town. Can you tell me anything about the family's relations with white people, or
I don't,
even more generally, black people's relations with white people?
I don't, I don't know too much about Uncle Jim's relationship with them, but Uncle Jim, see, he had what they call if he bales hay, he cut hay for the white people,
Okay.
and he baled hay for the white people for a percentage.
Okay.
So he was pretty well much involved with white people, more so than my dad. Because
Okay.
my dad didn't have what they call it, some kind of a hay press. I just call it hay press.
They take the hay.
They'll pile it up, they'll cut it, and then they'll rake it up. They had a big old machine about wide as this kitchen, and once the hay was cut up, this thing had some teeth, and they'd go over and pick the hay up.
Mm-hmm.
And pile it up. And when Uncle Jim took his press, and I guess it had to be drugged by mule. But anyway, they'll take big forks and take that hay and put it in a big hamper, I wouldn't call it a hamper, but like a big basket.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing would come down and press the hay down, and press the hay down, and when it get about so big, then another device would tie the bales together, and they come out bales so big, and that's what they fed the cows and horses during the winter. Well, Uncle Jim did that, but Daddy didn't.
Okay.
He didn't fool with he didn't fool with the white folks too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Uncle Jim had a pretty good relationship with the white folks due to the fact that he cut hay for them, baled, and they paid him a percentage.
Okay. So is there anything about kind of this earlier period of your life that that I didn't ask you about, that you want to talk about? Whether it be the farming or schooling, anything from your early life?
Well, the main thing I remember about the early schooling is that we had to walk to school, and the white kids that had I don't know how many rooms they had, a big brick school down in Crawford.
Okay.
The bus go around through the community and pick up the white kids. And we would be walking, and they'd go by and they'd stick their tongue at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I said, wow. See, we had land. My dad was paying taxes and my grandmother, but we couldn't. We didn't have. We had to walk to school.
Right.
Yeah, it was something that made a imprint on me as a young child.
Yeah.
How we were treated different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And by them paying taxes, they were paying for a school that you all
that we couldn't attend.
couldn't go to. Right?
Yeah, and a bus that wouldn't pick us up. We
Right.
had to walk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to learn, so, I mean, my dad would always help us with our lessons, especially math and spelling.
And so how did you said he could read and write, so do you know how he was able to?
Well, he went to school. I guess they went to school.
Okay.
My dad could write, and my dad was pretty smart.
Okay.
Yeah, he could read. A lot of people came to him for advice. Yeah, he was. Matter of fact, all the Moss kids, they could read and write. Uncle Jim and all of them, they could read and write. But they didn't go on. Only Maddie went to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they probably was a similar situation with y'all where they were walking for sure, and then
For sure, I'm sure.
Yeah. And probably meeting up at a church or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so was in terms of the area, I almost said neighborhood, but it wasn't a neighborhood, it was a area. Do you remember relatives that you can recall that lived nearby that you were friends with, or that were friends with your parents?
The Washingtons, Pete Washington, the people lived on back of us on that road, and the house over there, Nora Washington.
Okay.
He had five or six kids.
Okay.
Yeah, and we went to school together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's where the Washington part of the Ash Washington Road comes from. Okay.
Nora Washington and Miss Mary. Miss Mary Washington, she was friends with my grandmother, Hattie.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to visit from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah. And we all went to school with Louis, John, Louise, Pete, Ida B, Josie May. We had five. The younger ones I went to school with, because the older ones, they were older than me, Josie May and Ida B, but Pete, John, and Louise, they lived back of us.
Okay.
That's the Washington. They had land back there.
Okay. Okay. And can you remember any stories that you were told as a kid that were about your parents or grandparents? Do you understand the question? Like stories that your grandmother or grandfather or father or mother told you that when you were a kid about their childhood?
No.
I guess your father definitely didn't, because you said he was so quiet.
He wasn't no talking. My grandmother, Pa's grandma Hattie. Now she would talk, but she mostly talked about how rebellious she was in school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she told me about a fight she had with her teacher.
Okay.
And she tore his shirt off of it. He was gonna whip her.
I bet.
Now I guess she was about maybe teenage, early teens. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that story about her. Her fighting her teacher. Yeah. But Pa didn't talk about nothing.
Okay.
Dad is somewhat like Pa.
And so I know you said that once Pa got old, Uncle Tom and Uncle Dan, I believe you said, kind of took over the 60 acres. Is that right?
My dad took over.
Your dad took over.
Yeah. Uncle Dan and Tom, they didn't do too much farming. Uncle Dan and Uncle Tom was automobile mechanics. They could fix anything.
Oh, okay.
Mostly, I don't ever remember Uncle Dan going to the field.
Okay.
And Uncle Tommy, he always had his little corn crops, but Uncle Tommy fixed cars.
Okay.
People come from all around the community, miles away, to bring their cars for Uncle Tommy to fix.
Okay.
Yeah, he could take a car apart, every piece, and lay it out there on the ground. And when he get through with it, it's gonna run.
Okay.
Yeah, he was automobile. And so far as the farming was concerned, my daddy took over after Pa passed.
Okay.
Yeah, Daddy was in charge of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so Uncle Jim eventually got his own land. Can you tell us about that, whatever you know about that?
I don't know where Uncle Jim came about that land after the Webbs moved and Uncle Jim moved up there. I don't know. I don't know how old I was. I was young. But he bought that land.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I was 12. I don't know.
Yeah, so that would have been
Yeah.
right around 1940, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we can talk about you leaving the farm, and we can start with when did you leave and where did you go and what were you trying to do?
I left from out there in August 1945.
So you would have been 18.
I'm going to be 18.
Okay.
I was 17.
Okay.
And we had my dad's minister, he was a Methodist minister, came from Columbus.
Okay.
And he had a son named Orlando. Orlando was a little older than I. But he took a liking to me. And his mother, Reverend Wheaton and Miss Wheaton, they both liked me, and especially Miss Wheaton. So I got out from out there one Sunday. Miss Wheaton, which is my dad's minister's wife, she told me to come around the back. They used to come by and pick us up to go to church. Well, at that time, my dad wasn't going to church.
Okay.
So they'd drive out from Columbus, and he would preach, and then he'd go home. But this particular Sunday, Miss Wheaton had told me that her son, Orlando, he said he liked you, he's in love with you, he want to marry you. I said, oh. I was 17, but my dad didn't allow me to talk to boys. He didn't allow no boys to come there. No. So when Orlando liked me, then he allowed Orlando to come by once in a while. They would pick us up, go to Crawford, go to church. So after Miss Wheaton told me that he wanted to marry me, I said, ooh, goodbye. Goodbye, fun. So about a month after that, Miss Wheaton told me, Orlando got a license, marriage license. He want to marry. I said, you want to marry me? I don't know what I want to do that or not. Well, she said she knew I wanted to go to school. I didn't want to be no farmer. So I said, well. So the next fall summer, which was a month away, Orlando came with a license, and Mattie Louise and I and Orlando, we went to a preacher's house in Crawford. Okay. And got married. Okay. So I didn't go home then. I went on with them because I wanted to go to school. So about the next fall Sunday, I didn't have no clothes, nothing. Oh, I come back to get my clothes, and Mama took the fire iron. She's gonna beat the hell out of me. Oh boy, but anyway, that's how I got off the farm. Okay. By marrying my dad's preacher's son. Okay. Yeah. And so you were living in Columbus from the time you got married? Yeah. Okay. So Miss Wheaton went to Professor Hunt's house. He was the principal of the high school, and told him about me, that I wanted to go to school, and I didn't have no credentials, and blah, 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 and that I was married. And he told her, she come back and told me, well, Professor Hunt said you can go to school being married, but you cannot talk about marriage stuff. I knew what she was talking about. I wasn't going to talk about no marriage stuff. Those girls I was going to school with were younger than me, maybe 3-4 years younger than me. They know more about marriage than I did. And so what was the name of the school? Union Academy High School. Okay. Excuse me. Union Academy. So I graduated. I stayed there 4 years and graduated. And I wanted to go to college, but I had to work my way through because they wanted, my in-laws wanted me to go to Russ College. Okay. But I would have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning and work in the kitchen to work my way through college. I didn't have no clothes, I didn't have no money. So I didn't want to do that. So I left and went to St. Louis. I told Dad to come get my stuff. And I stayed there a week, and then I left and went to St. Louis.
Okay.
And stayed there and worked for 2 years.
You went to St. Louis alone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to, I left Atlanta.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I left, you know. I felt bad about it but she knew I wanted to go to school. I was not in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they accepted. We were friendly after that. Because
Okay.
whenever I go home, I go to Columbus, I go to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what kind of work did you do in St. Louis?
I worked in a dress factory.
Okay.
Yeah. We made sportswear actually. We made blouses and pelt pushers at the time and slacks and stuff like that.
Okay. So you were working a sewing machine or?
I did sewing machine a little while, but I wasn't good at it. So I got the first job. I was sewing, but those electric machines were so fast. I did two things. But anyway, I quit that job and went to work where and Jane was working. And they hired me as a bundler. Once they'd have material stacked this high, and they'd cut it. So I put sizes on it, bundle it, and take it to the machine for the ladies. So I did that 2 years.
Okay.
And then I got married to Bob Mixon, and I came to Chicago.
Okay. What year was that?
1951.
Okay. And you went, do you remember where you were living when you came?
35th and Rhodes, in the ghetto.
Okay. Was it it was probably a kitchenette style?
No, what we did, we were rooming with a couple that my husband, Bob, knew.
Okay.
Yeah, we were rooming. We had a room there.
Okay.
And we roomed there until I told him we gotta go.
Okay.
Because we were it was bad news.
Mm-hmm.
We lived up over Tavern and, oh boy, rodents and everything else. So we moved to the west side and roomed with a couple over there for 2 years. And then we moved to south side and we had our own apartment, got our own apartment.
Okay. And when you went to the south side with your own apartment, do you remember where that was?
5510 Ingleside.
Okay. And so what, did you continue to work when you came to Chicago or?
I didn't work for 10 years.
Okay.
After, well, what happened, Bob had 2 children by previous marriage.
Okay.
They were in Mississippi. And by that time, my son was born. So we went home that summer and brought those kids back. I kept those 3. I had 3 kids at 24 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you were working, but
I was working.
Yeah, you were working.
I was working. I took them to school and did that. I did everything because the boy, he was 5. He had never been to school, so I was the first person to take him to school.
Okay.
So I stayed home and Bob worked.
Okay.
Yeah, for 10 years, and after 10 years, the marriage didn't work. So
Okay.
then after that, I was on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a job at Xerox and stayed there and retired 25 years at Xerox.
Okay. And what were you doing at Xerox?
Building copy machines.
Okay. And where's the plant or the facility?
It was in Oakbrook, right? Out here
Okay.
by the shopping mall.
Okay. And so you came out here.
I came out here when in 72.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And so what was this area like back then?
just like it is now.
Okay.
Yeah. Villa Park. It was identical the way it is. Nothing has changed. They built, yeah. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah, I worked there for 25 years, and I'm glad I did. I had to. I didn't have,
Yeah.
I didn't have no husband, and I had a son.
Yeah.
So I had, yeah.
And so when did you start? My understanding is that you are the one that started the family reunions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about when you started that? How did you get the idea to do it? What made you want to do it?
1974 or 75, I think it was 74. We were all home. We went home. I don't know who all was there. I think some of Mary Will's kids there, but it was a bunch of us there.
Mm-hmm.
Edie, Edward Lee. I don't think Junior, but anyway, we were there, and some of the cousins, they didn't know. The kids from Chicago said, we need to get together and have a family reunion. We'll be marrying our cousins. So from that on, I I decided I was going to have a family reunion, and I started working on it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember when the first one happened?
It was 1976, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And down in Crawford?
In Crawford.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you all did the hotel and the whole nine, or was there?
Hotel, whole nine.
Okay.
Well, the first year we didn't do the hotel. We just did a picnic on the farm there, in my mom's yard.
Okay.
The men bought a hog
Okay.
and butchered it and barbecued it, and we had the first one there on the farm. And then after that, I started, doing it at the hotel in Columbus.
Okay.
I said, we don't want to be out in the sun and
Yeah.
insects flying around and things. So
Right.
I got the first one together.
Okay. And did your parents ever come to Chicago to visit?
Yeah, my mom,
Your mom did.
Daddy came once.
Okay.
My mom came a lot of times.
And what was their reaction, I guess, and by your dad and his siblings? I mean, when I say they, when you all started to come to Chicago or anywhere other than Crawford, were they? It seemed like to me they probably wouldn't have been happy about it because they needed some help with the land, maybe, or wanted to maybe imagine giving you all the land, and if you all weren't there, who would they leave it to? I don't know.
Well, that land is air property.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad, Aunt Maddie, they wouldn't think about doing anything with the land. That's why it's the way it is now. You can't do nothing with it. Because, well, what my grandmother used to always say when we were kids growing up, I want this land to stay in the family. So when you kids go away and you come back home, you have a place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
She envisioned us coming back, building houses and all that, but that wasn't about to happen.
Yeah.
So they were glad, really. My mama especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they were glad because when y'all got up here, y'all were doing well and better than you would have been probably.
Yeah, driving new cars home. And yeah.
Of course it was kind of rough when you first got here, but once you got yourself going.
Yeah, I got some good jobs. Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
Well, my husband, my son's father, he worked and I didn't work, so the money was, but he made enough for us to have our own apartment.
Yeah.
Because he did construction work, and then on the weekend, he worked at the parking lots, parking cars downtown Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall who was one of the first people in the family to come to Chicago, as far as like your cousins?
Well, Aunt Maddie was the first of my dad's family.
Okay.
And then, I don't know whether it was Sonny.
So she came by herself, Aunt Maddie?
Yeah.
Do you know what she did when she got here?
She worked in a factory making clothes.
Okay.
Yeah. She was a seamstress.
Okay.
I don't know how many years she stayed here, but she stayed here a lot of years.
Oh, okay.
And she stayed over there on 529. You probably heard talk of 529.
Yes, I have.
At the big kitchenette, the big old three stores. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
3-story building, 6 apartments. And this guy had cut them up and made every a stove in every room,
Yeah.
and the bathroom down the hall.
Yeah.
Well, those were rough times for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we never lived in a kitchenette. We roomed, and then after we stopped rooming, we had our own apartment.
Okay.
Bob had his for his kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, since you brought up 529, you said Aunt Maddie was there. Do you recall who else?
And Maddie was there for a while. Coop was there for a while. One of the twins was there. Sonny was there. Luke was there. They all started from 529.
Oh, okay.
Ike, that we just buried. He lived. That place was all ash.
Okay.
And I didn't go over there. It was rough. I went once. One time I went and I said, I won't go back anymore.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they were all weekend. It was nothing but a party. Everybody drinking, everybody crazy. And your granddaddy was super crazy. Oh, he grabbed me. One day I went over there. That's when I said I wasn't going back no more. And tied me over his lap and spanking me on my butt. He pinned me down somehow. And boy, I cussed him out and I left. I said, I'm crazy. Ain't going over there no more.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell Bob about it because Bob would have went over there and raised some hell.
Yeah.
My husband, he wouldn't. I said, I don't want to go over there. But then Maddie was there, and they all just ended up there in that kitchenette.
Yeah.
Yeah, until they were able to get jobs and, you know, got rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know it's funny to look back on it, but my Marquita, which is my Uncle Boot, as they call it, Uncle Henry's son,
Yeah.
Said like when he first came here to Chicago, like he wrote a letter to his parents saying, "Send for me, cause these folks is poor." That's what she said.
Yeah, they poor, you know.
But you know, he did well himself.
Yeah, he did well. Yeah, he went on and did really, really well.
Yeah.
Well, it was rough. You living in a kitchenette, and you got 3 rooms here. And 3 over here and 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
Out in the hall.
Right.
At the corner of the hall.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, wow, how they did it. Was rough because they wasn't making no money then, you know.
Yeah.
You know, people wasn't making no money.
Yeah.
And my brother, how I don't think Henry ever did that. But my brother worked in the slaughterhouse. They had a slaughterhouse in Chicago on the south side.
Okay. Which brother was this?
My LA one called LA.
Okay.
Our brother.
Okay.
Yeah, he came. I think was he the first, or was Sonny here already? I don't know, but anyway, it was rough. And brother worked in that slaughterhouse where they killed the processed the. It was the largest meat processing country in the country, I think.
Yeah, I think
and a whole lot of people worked there, and it was dirty, nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked there.
Okay. And so you may or may not know this, but the circumstances of some of your cousins leaving, like my grandfather, do you know what happened? Like what made him go? Like was it discussed, Crawford, to come up here?
It was discussed. I know. I'm pretty sure the white people, they were bad on black males. So Sonny, which is your grandfather, brother, and JT, they were teenage young men, and they hung out in Artesia.
Okay.
And a lot of the girls they were trying to date were dating white men.
Okay.
So you know what that means.
Yeah.
You leave these women alone, or we find you in the river.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sure that encouraged. I believe Sonny was the next, and then brother came after Sonny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to talk about, we've been talking about the family, but more so about just the world in general in different times. So do you have any, you brought up your parents not being able to vote and your grandparents not being able to vote. And so you were already up here when the civil rights movement
Yeah.
going in full swing. But can you talk about your recollections about it and how it affected you personally, and then how it affected people that were still down there?
Well, I'll start with down there first of all.
Mm-hmm.
That was before the Civil Rights Bill was passed.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy and my mama's brother, Uncle Mac, and the Gray family, they were Masons.
Okay.
And they were trying to get people to vote, sign up people to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad did finally get the vote, but it was after, many years.
Mm-hmm.
But they ran Moses Gray out of Crawford, the white folks.
Okay.
They were gonna kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother's brother, Mac McCarter, they tried to run him out, but when they went to get him to lynch him, he got up in the tree with his shotgun.
Okay.
And he said everyone put foot on, he had his own land, own farm, and everyone put foot on his land, that's where he's gonna leave him.
Mm-hmm.
So by him being a Mason, in the white, they suppose it's a brotherhood like the Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Them white folks in Crawford told him don't go up there messing with Mac McCarter because he's food.
Okay.
Well, they were gonna get my daddy
Okay.
because he was trying to vote and trying to sign up people. But anyway, fast forward to coming here to Chicago. When I first started voting, I guess my son must have been 3 or 4 years old.
So this is the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mid-50s. Yeah.
And so down there they weren't voting.
No, they couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still couldn't vote.
Right.
Because all the people that was trying to organize, well, in that county around, they ran them out of the county.
Mm-hmm.
They was threatening them to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in terms of, I guess to say it explicitly, like the Ku Klux Klan, was that something that you heard about when you were growing up?
Yeah, I heard about it.
And
Yeah.
did you ever see the hoods and all of that?
No, I never experienced nothing like that. I didn't see that.
Okay.
We didn't go nowhere, and then but that's who was after Moses Gray.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a family around down not far from Uncle Jim's church,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a big family, and he packed his family up and left there because they was gonna kill him.
Okay.
He was part of the group was meeting at different churches trying to get people registered.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came to Chicago, once I started voting, I just kept on voting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess about any of your recollections about other major world events like World War II or whatever, and what you recall about it, how it might have affected the family or you personally.
World War II, not really. World War II, I was like so young, but the war that really affected, that I saw an effect on the family, on my generation, was my brother. He went to Korea.
Oh, okay.
He was over in Korea for 3 years or so, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
He was in Korea, and he came home a bitter man.
Yeah. Is this brother or is this Nelson?
Brother.
Brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nelson was in Korea. Brother was in World War II.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nelson was in Korean War.
Yeah. So who came home bitter?
My brother.
Okay.
Because, well, he said he was affected because the way that they were treated down in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
He went over there and served 3 years, came home, and you still got to tell a white man, yes sir, and no sir, and you couldn't vote, and you couldn't go here, and you couldn't go there.
Right.
So he just got on out of there, and he was bitter until his death. How they treated him, and how his feet was freezing, his hand would freeze, and then he come home and go to Mississippi and have to tell the man yes and all that stuff. Yeah, he was bitter, and then he didn't get enough letters. Me, I didn't know how important it was for guys to get letters, because he said when mail call come about, and some of the guys would tease him, man, don't you know no, you don't know nobody, you ain't get no mail, and he was hurt about that because we didn't write him. We didn't realize it was important. Yeah. My grandmother, Mom used to write it, and Mama, but I never wrote it.
Okay. Yeah.
And Daddy's oldest son, John, he helped liberate France. He went all through. John did.
Okay.
That's my daddy's, Mama say, outside child.
Okay.
He wouldn't. Dad never married her. But John, they gave them the blues over there in some areas.
Okay. So, is there anything else that you want to say that I didn't ask you?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Basically, you know, I'm glad I got to Mississippi, and I'm glad I was able to get, you know, a high school education. Because otherwise, I couldn't have got the job that I got.
Right.
You had to have a high school education.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because it was, you know, it brought me to right here where I am.
Which is a nice home.
Living in Chicago, I couldn't live in Chicago now. It's too expensive and too dangerous. Yeah, I worry about my brother and Jane and Edward and them being in there, but I don't know. But I'm glad things turned out the way they did.
Yeah. And I'm glad you agreed to do this.
My pleasure.
I'm glad we have it for the family, and we can remember it and share it and never forget it.
No, don't forget it. Don't forget where we came from. It wasn't easy, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.